Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger, and today we are going to have a discussion show. We're going to recap everything that went on at AngularMix 2017 last week. So let's get our show started. Joining us today, we've got Austin McDaniel. Austin, what's going on?
How's it going, everyone? Trying to get my hat on straight. It keeps moving around.
You're having some headgear technical difficulties there. All right, we got Bonnie with us. Bonnie, how's it going?
Hi, how are you doing? Finally got back.
Good.
I think I'm just about unpacked, and now I got to pack again because I'm leaving in like 2 days.
Traveling
Such a jet
woman.
setter. Yeah.
We got a Mike with us. Mike, what's going on?
Not too much. Just jumping on, ready to chat a little bit about last week. Distant past.
It's in the past, yeah. It's in the past. We're going to recap it, recall it, right? We got Sam with us. Sam, how's it going?
Hi. Good.
Cool. And Alyssa's going to be joining us here in a minute. So Bonnie, Mike, Sam, myself, we were all at Mix. Austin, we missed you at Mix, but you were there in spirit. So let's talk about first of all, AngularMix. It was a conference in Orlando, Florida. AngularMix 2017. It was kind of more focused on enterprise Angular. That was the kind of idea of the conference, I believe. So most of the sessions and the content was attempted to be more geared towards the enterprise level Angular development stuff. Of course, there's always nuggets in there for any level of Angular that you're developing, but that was kind of the main thing. It included the Angular team. So a bunch of the Angular core team was there. They gave talks as well as had a presence there. Let's see, Brad was there, Jules, Rob, Steven, Igor, Mishko. List goes on and on. Anybody else want to throw any other names out there? Let's see. Yeah, a bunch. Alex, Rick and Bob.
We got to meet Brad's kids. They were pretty cool.
Yeah. Some people brought their family, so that was cool. You brought your kid.
I did bring my kid. She did her first talk.
Or did she? First talk. Yeah. There were some other great talks too. So the first day was a lot of the Angular team talking, right? And then the next 2 days were a mix of all kinds of people, other speakers talking and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it kind of went single track the first day with, like you said, primary focus on the team. And then it kind of broke out from there to a multi-track with lots of good talks.
Yeah, so the Angular team talked about some new stuff that they had, some kind of things that are on the horizon and stuff like that. So I thought we'll start with kind of covering what the Angular team talked about, their points and their talks, and kind of go into discussion around that. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the conference events, and then we'll talk about the other talks, and then wrap the show up. So let's dive into it more. So the Angular team stuff, the things that they announced, I have a list of things here. One of the first things they talked, Mishko talked about ng upgrade and this new upgrade light concept, where if you're familiar with ng upgrade, hopefully you are, because you watched a couple of our previous episodes where we had Denny on talking through ng upgrade and demoing that, part 1 and 2. That's really using this ng upgrade module to kind of run your AngularJS application within an Angular application and slowly migrate pieces of it forward into Angular, with the idea that Angular was the engine that was running, the framework that was running it, and just processing that AngularJS code, right? And I believe with this new upgrade light approach is that you bootstrap your Angular app the normal way you would with your AngularJS app in the normal way you would for AngularJS, do that bootstrap. And you could pass it this module function that helps you load an Angular module lazily when it's requested. So the idea being that you just bootstrap your regular AngularJS app, it's running, it's doing all those things fine, and then you start slowly migrating modules to Angular. And then when a component is requested that comes from that module, then the Angular framework will kick in and be used. So it kind of allows you to do kind of like a slow rollout separation of those two. But it also, I think, focuses really on this concept of like when you take an Angular app and you use that to run your AngularJS app, you're using Angular and the the zone stuff for change detection, and you've got that the entire time that the Angular upgrade module is running that whole thing, right? Whereas this gives you a way to say, okay, I'm just running AngularJS code, and when I need it, I'll request that code to be run with the Angular framework bits and that sort of
So in that case, is the change detection totally separate? Because right now it's kind of like this awkward thing where it's kind of like a wrapper around that. So if it's totally separate like that, that could be a huge performance increase for people that are running ng upgrade.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, right? Is that like if you ran Angular ng upgrade with Angular and Angular's doing all the controlling, then it's got its zone running watch for the entire thing, right? And then AngularJS is still doing its digest thing. And so with this, you're separating the two, getting the performance like you're mentioning. And then but you do have to think about more of this change detection stuff that now you have a little more control over that, I believe. So now you're, might have to kick, if your Angular code's using some AngularJS service that's doing something that triggers some change detection that you're used to, you may need to manually trigger that or whatever in this scenario. But yeah, I think that whole idea is the performance and the lighter weight and all that stuff. So that was interesting. So that was pretty cool. Angular Labs, that was talked about as this new thing. There's a icon for it, so a logo for it. So it must be real, right? Maybe Mike can talk a little bit more about the Angular Labs concept.
It was new to me. I learned about it when everybody else did. I scrambled to get it into my talks, into my slides. But it's pretty much my understanding, not to say exactly what it is. My understanding is that things that are new that may have public APIs that may change, that may go away, just things that teams are playing with it to provide exposure to, so that other people can play with it as well. No different than, say, like a labs feature in like Gmail or Google Calendar to be able to say, hey, I want to play with that, but I understand that it may change or may go away.
So it's this idea of kind of grouping these things, right, that are kind of in the works or whatever under this one umbrella that you can call Angular Labs that say, look, yeah, just like you said, experimental or the things that are in development, but now we have kind of like a term or a collection of all these things. And
yeah,
things like schematics, right? Schematics and the component dev kit, and we'll talk a little bit about each of those real quick, but those kind of all fall under the umbrella of the Angular Labs.
Yep, I think that's the full encompassing list, as far as I know, of what is currently under there.
So is there like one domain that has everything listed out under it that's like the Angular Labs domain, or not really?
It's more so a designation that something is part of Angular Labs, and it's not going to be a central location where those lab items are stored under. It's just a broader title category thing.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Nailed it.
With this, like, if I'm, beta 5 or Angular 5 is just around the corner. Would things in Angular 5, before, say we're in Angular 4, let's imagine we're in Angular 4 and Angular 5 is around the corner. Like, would I be able to start trying out new things in Angular 5 in 4 type thing? Is that what it would be? Or is it like these like super experimental things like no zones or something like that?
I think it's just a way to say, like, hey, these things are things that are in production or being worked on, right? These are these concepts, these are these things that, and just like kind of organizing them that way. Is it?
Yeah,
so
I see it as a way of like managing expectations, right? So if something is designated as labs, then maybe the documentation isn't quite there, or maybe this is just something that somebody's playing with so that somebody doesn't fully expect, or what to expect to get out of a given feature or something that's been placed under that designation.
I think how Jules put it was nice. It was like basically anything that is like fully design wise comped out. Like the idea is far enough that we have like logos or a name or branding for it, but it's still in the experimental phase is how she like umbrellaed it. So I think anything that you could say is experimental, but you know about because it's like exists and been talked about could probably fall under it, I guess.
I like that explanation of it. It's kind of like managing expectations, right? It's just setting these expectations of what this stuff is, right? You said maybe no documentation, maybe it's that sort of thing. So yeah. So there's schematics in there, right? Schematics, this new thing. Mike had to talk about it a little bit, and we're gonna
maybe. Yeah, schematics is under the Angular Labs designation, but schematics isn't something that's potentially going to go away. Schematics is under that umbrella mainly because the documentation and the explanations behind it aren't quite there. So with that out of the way, schematics is the topic of next week's show. We're going to be going over schematics, what they are and how you'd use them and what they can do for you and your organization or you and the Angular community.
So schematics are something that already exists under the hood in Angular CLI is using these, right, for the generators to generate.
Angular CLI has been using schematics under the hood, invisible to everyone, just hidden, kind of like a refactoring type thing that happened with release 1.4. But that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. To be able to get some default things generated via schematics versus the old blueprint engine. But the power of schematics becomes when you get into the extensibility and customization of what you want to generate to personalize your apps the way you want them.
Yes. Schematics are, I love the schematic stuff. I'm very excited about it because it's going to empower a lot of things going forward with our ability to make building Angular apps and scaffolding and all that stuff a lot easier and a lot simpler while still leveraging the power of the Angular CLI. So it's pretty cool.
Remind me to show you an idea that changes spaces to tabs. We can play with that next week.
All right.
Who would ever do that?
I'm going to call it the McDaniel feature.
Nice. All right. So CDK, the component dev kit, that was another thing that was discussed. That falls underneath this labs thing, right? I think that's kind of interesting because so the CDK is the idea of taking the power of Angular material, right? The logic that powers it and separating it out so that you could put your own view design experience on top of that, but yet you can get the power of what it does logically. Does that sound correct to everybody? We have some people that do a little work on that, so maybe they can kind of say if that's correct or not. Austin.
Oh.
Yeah.
So so the CDK is essentially when you're building component libraries, like after you've built them a few times, like you find these patterns that you kind of like repeat over and over and over again. Like an example might be like how you position a dropdown, right? And it's not just like a naive approach would just be like, oh, we'll just like absolutely, position it relatively, right? Super easy. But there's things like you need to, what if there's overflow? What if, collision detection with other, things that are on the screen? Indexing, what level of z-index you want to put it at relative to other things? Collision detection with if it's at the bottom right of the page, like you want it to show at the top right or the top left if it's at the bottom right. And so there's all these little things that like you do as component developers, and they're kind of just repeats of all the same stuff. And layout and overlay, I think is what it's called, is actually one of those things. And so the material team has essentially taken, all these common things and extracted them from, the material library and created component developer kit that will allow you to kind of utilize some of these same tools. And you're probably thinking like, okay, that's cool, but I'm just gonna use material. Why do I care about this? It's already got these things built in. Well, some people maybe they're using material and there's a component that they need, like a date picker dropdown or something crazy that is very specific to like your use case. And you're going to have to build those, and you want to build like a high quality component like material packages with all these things like, layout and collision detection, accessibility, focus management, right to left support, internationalization. All those things are just like little things that kind of define what this CDK is. Another use case that you might use it is you have very specific design requirements, and material really isn't a fit for you, but you still want to be able to use all those same low-level utilities that material is taking advantage of as you build your components. And so that's another really powerful use case for it to now enable you to develop really high-quality components like the material components are. So I mentioned like things like layout, things like right to left support. Focus management is a really big one. When I open like a dialog and then I close the dialog, the focus from a accessibility perspective should actually go back to that button that opened that dialog, and the browser doesn't do that automatically. So like focus trapping, things like that. Accessibility in terms of like labels and stuff like that is also in there. And a lot of like other little stuff, right to left. Did I say that already? And stuff like that. So it's a really cool little low-level utility kit that people can take advantage of for building their own components.
So would you never use them together? Like, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the use case is like, I'm using material and there's a material component. I need a component that material isn't implemented, or they're probably not going to implement, that is specific to my business case. So I can use material and the CDK together. Because when you actually install material, you have to install the CDK as well. Like, it's a requirement for it. So it's already going to be there, and you can already start taking advantage of it.
What I like about it, it's really cool, is like, we think about using a component library, and you're like, okay, I've got material and I've got prime ng and I got some other ones, and you're going, okay, I have to decide on the look that I want in order to get the functionality that I want, right? The CDK is going to allow you to go, okay, well, I can bring my own look to the table, and I can just grab the functionality. So I'm not having to do like all the stuff you said, like tab components, all these things. Like, hopefully I can leverage the logic of that, and then I could just put my own face on top of that. I don't have to settle with, not settle, because these other component libraries are great visual libraries, but maybe we have our own style that we want to implement, right? And this is going to allow us to do that without having to say it's all or nothing. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one thing, the CDK is relatively new, but it's actually been around for a while. It was the core component, and it was just in like a utilities folder before, and then we extracted it out. So it's been around for a while. It's like pretty, solid in terms of, using it. We built the foundation of all the material components on it. And just recently, the documentation for it went live. I think it was last week. So if you go to material.angular.io, now up beside components, there's also a CDK tab so that you can actually check out what's inside it.
So would an appropriate analogy be that the material to D3 would be the CDK to D3's math libraries? It's kind of like the thing that sits underneath that powers it, or no?
I suppose so. I suppose so.
It was a little bit of a stretch because, I mean, they're not the same visually, but at the same time, you have this polished thing that sits on top of a framework that you can use to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, the CDK actually, it doesn't have any like view components per se.
Right. But it's a toolbox that you can use to build other things with.
Yep.
Or toolkit, I guess. But
Cool. All right, so the other thing that was talked about under the labs thing is ABC, Angular bazel enclosure, right? Who wants to take a stab at explaining that? Anybody? I can explain it a little
Sam, go.
I was sick as a dog. I'm playing that card.
Okay, so Angular bazel enclosure, it's the idea of taking some of the internal tools at Google, I believe, that they use to do build process of this, this mono repo approach where they have several apps, several libraries all within one repo, and you need to build those, and you need to conditionally build those, to be performant on scale and that sort of things, and trying to, make those internal tools more available externally for everybody to use to accomplish some of these challenges that people meet, the challenges that Google met and faced and tackled, and making it available outside of the realm of Google. And then trying to fit that into the story that is our Angular development, right? So I think this was mentioned last year at ngConf, I think, maybe probably even before that, and this idea of the ABC stuff. And so I think it's just more moving forward on those bits.
On that note, there's a really interesting article that came back that, talks about why Google stores billions of lines of code in a single repository. So, if you read that article, you might understand a little bit more about, this move to bazel and things like that. Justin will share that out after the show.
Yes. Yeah. So, like currently today we talk about, like, let's say we're using the Angular CLI, right? And that's using Webpack right now, and it's bundling and building all of our code and libraries and dependencies and things like that. And we make a change to a file, then it's got to rebuild that entire thing, right? If we've got separation of libs and apps and things we want to like modularize in our code base, and we make tweaks to a little bit of them, we got to wait for the build process to happen for all of those, right? And so there's kind of a need to solve that, whether that's with solving it with Webpack or solving it with bazel or something else, but the challenge is that we need to figure out ways to make that build process faster, make it incremental, make it, piece by piece, that sort of thing, and kind of get that experience going there along with other things. And so I think that's the ABC stuff is an approach that's done to do that. And then it's a matter of, okay, how can we make this available? And so, like, be more information about that, things we go forward, but it's compelling. You might want to add anything to that, or on to the next one?
It's supposed to be, a lot faster because it's going, I believe it's Java based. So you'll be able to get like, true multi-threading in terms of your builds and things like that. So, people will be able to see quite a bit better build performance when they're building these. And one other thing is, when I was talking to Rob Warnall about this, and before I move on, the Java thing, they're planning to be like totally packaged where you don't even realize that Java is like going on in the background. So people like me that were like, what? Java? Won't even have to worry about that. But another thing that like Rob was talking about is like in real world, like you're not necessarily just building the Webpack build, right? You're typically like watching, whether it's C# or, Java or something like that. There are other builds going on in your system. So to be able to unify those builds in a single like build system like this, that's highly performant and can kind of bootstrap on top of other build systems and like, a single point of, building, would be really cool to see how that plays out.
Yeah. But the idea, to expand on what you were talking about with the multi-threaded aspect, that's one of the main ways to keep build times consistent as your app grows in scale from hello world through multi levels of multi ng modules, lazy loaded features, and all of that, to build those independently on their own thread to support all of those, to keep the same level of performance as your app grows.
Yeah, you know what we need to just do? We just need to get Ali Siegel to come on and do an episode and talk all about it and explain it. So then we know what the heck we're talking about. So we'll get on that. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of labs that was discussed. Another thing that was talked about is this concept of Angular elements. Rob Wormel did a talk on that, and this is pretty cool. Who all saw that? Anybody in the panel who watched that? Raising hands. You can say, yes, I did.
I did. It looks awesome. The ability to essentially write Angular code and have web components spit out that would play nicely with Angular. It'll play nicely with other frameworks as well, or even just raw JavaScript, no framework, which kind of like expands the Angular universe to ideas of a CMS where you can drop in a script tag that has a component that you've built with Angular, use all the tools that you know, and bundle it up as a web component and use it in some sort of CMS or custom rendered piece where you don't necessarily have a full spa running.
Yeah, so it's this idea, right, that you can create these custom elements, like you're saying, like use the knowledge that you have of building Angular components, right? Creating these component classes, the decorators, that sort of thing, the same way you build these Angular things, and then bundle them up into this reusable custom element that then you can drop on, use in different places, and it'll basically run this isolated little component, right? Without having to run Angular and all that other stuff. And that's being worked on. Rob showed some of that stuff. I believe that one was recorded, so you could watch that. Yeah, it's cool. What I like about it a lot is like we already had this, Angular already had this stuff kind of in its platform, right? For building components, we have view encapsulation, the template and the logic with the class code and things like that. That we're already building our Angular components in this way that kind of wells around custom elements and this sort of thing. And so now we get the fruition of some of those decisions and change and architecture, how components are built, to be able to easily, right, go to this movement where we can have this custom element from what we created be used, outside of Angular. I don't know, it's pretty cool. So yeah, but check that out. We need we'll tweet that out or send that link out, but you could probably find it. It's AngularMix on the YouTube channel, but check out the one about Angular elements. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you first hear about it, you think, okay, yeah, all right, whatever. And then you start thinking about the possibilities of what you can do with it. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I like that. I can do a lot of these other really cool things with. Really opens up a whole lot of possibilities.
Yeah, and it really all fits into that reusability, right? And that management of encapsulation of these modular bits that you're using, and then getting other teams and other people, places and people to be able to use that code, and then focus on working in that code and isolation and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Reusable is the best.
What's the best?
Reusable. Anything reusable. I love reusable.
For sure. I feel like I learned something new this year, because this was the first time that I was a speaker, and before I was always an attendee. And when I was an attendee, like every single talk, I was in the front row taking notes, and I was like just soaking up everything like a sponge. But when I was a speaker, I was just like, I can't listen to those talks because I'm still working on my talks. And it was just like it was like the last minute trying to get everything perfect before And I hadn't seen that side of it. So now I understand like the stress that the speakers go through at the conference. Because I was just an attendee. All I have to do is sit there and listen to you guys. And this time it was like,
The first 2 days I was finishing. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I missed some of the talks that I really, really wanted to see because I had my own problems to deal with.
Right. The first 2 days I was working on my presentation, and the rest of the week I was sick. I was so sick, and I'm sad I didn't see any of them.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so
the worst. I'm sorry, guys.
It is.
Yeah, so let's talk about that really quick because that's an interesting topic in terms of being a speaker at a conference versus being an attendee. I had the chance this time to be an attendee. I didn't do a talk there. We did have a booth.
I'm wondering, how did that feel? Like, is
Yes.
it different after having been a speaker to go back to being an attendee, or can you slip right back in that mode?
Okay, so for me, this was my first Angular specific conference that I'd been to that I wasn't speaking. So it was actually like the first time I got to enjoy an Angular centric conference without having any requirements. And so the things that you just mentioned about, the stress, the having your talk on your mind or talks on your mind, if you're somebody at Rocco, and being prepared for that, it basically takes you, it takes me, and I'm sure most people, out of this mindset of like ability to enjoy the moment, to really engage in these community discussions and things like that with people, because you got this thing weighing over you, right? And so for me, coming into this one, it was really cool because right from day one, from the very beginning, I just felt like I was totally engaged in every conversation I was having and in every connection I was making with people from our community, with other speakers, all that stuff. And it was a pretty cool experience to be able to take that in because there's so many connections that you make. There's so many, our Angular community is very active about including people, about we're going to dinner together. We're hanging out in between sessions together. People are inviting. You're hanging out with new attendees you've never met before, speakers and attendees. That's the lifeblood of our community, our Angular community. And to be able to enjoy that when you go to these conferences, it's like, if it's 3 days, might as well forget about it. All 3 days you're going to have some every moment with engagement with somebody, right? So to be able to actually digest that and enjoy that was pretty cool.
But I think the best part about that was to be able to enjoy those conversations over a nice cup of butterbeer.
Oh, there was butterbeer?
Oh yeah, there was butterbeer.
Oh yeah.
Wait, was it like hot or was it cold butterbeer?
Cold.
Cold.
No,
Oh, okay.
You could choose. I believe you could choose if you wanted it.
It was either cold or frozen.
Oh, cold or frozen. Okay, there we go. So it was like slushy or non-slushy.
Oh, I've only ever had the slushy, but I'm pretty sure the book it's only hot. So
that butterbeer was kind of amazing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't too sure about letting Samantha drink the butterbeer, but they assured me it would be fine.
No, it doesn't have alcohol. They're like 13 in the books drinking butterbeer. Mom.
I know. But it says beer, so I don't know. But I got a really cute picture of Brocky and Sam drinking butterbeer, and Sam had like the little milk mustache. It was really
Yeah, my other mom.
It was a butterbeer mustache.
Oh yeah, and Mike was Sam's mom because I was trying to go to the Harry Potter party, and then I was going to leave early, but but Sam wanted to stay for the whole party. So I'm like, hey Mike, are you staying for the Harry Potter? Because I'm trying to find like a responsible adult. So like, do you
And
know
you
any
ended up with
responsible
me.
adults?
Parenting fail.
Yeah. So then like Sam would go off with Mike, and then she would like ditch him and come back and find me, and then he's like, I lost my kid, and I'm like, Mike, you're a horrible parent.
He was the
So
worst. I kept running away and he wouldn't even notice. I'm like, I could actually be running away.
Yeah, but it was so fun.
So the conference party event, right? So most of these conferences, for those of you that haven't attended a conference, usually has some sort of event or party one of the nights, right? That gets everybody together. And for this one, it was the Harry Potter land at Universal Studios Orlando. It got rented out, so it was just the attendees of the conference for like 3 hours in the middle of the night at this the Harry Potter land. They have 3 different rides, I guess, if you call them all 3 rides. There's 1.5 rides and then one
wait,
virtual train thing.
What? Okay, whoa. Slow your roll. Are you calling the train a non-ride? Like what?
I mean, there's no belt. You're not buckled in.
There was a really
kind of
cool
not
red
really.
button.
This is true. It was suspenseful. Sam made it very suspenseful. There was a open your door emergency red button that knob. It was a knob, wasn't it? Knob, not a button.
It was a knob. It was a red knob.
Yeah.
Oh my!
So,
that sounds like the most amazing like after party ever. And I'm so.
You know what was really cool? We met. So Samantha and I met Deborah Carrata at NGConf last year, and we were super excited to meet Deborah. Like Sam did not fangirl over any of the Angular core team. Like she was like, "Oh yeah, nice to meet you," blah blah blah. But when she met Deborah Carrata, she was like, "Oh my God, that's her!" She was like so excited, right? So we hadn't had a chance to really hang out with her, and so I asked Deborah Carrata if she would ride over there with us to the Harry Potter party, and we actually ended up hanging out with her. Well, she knows her Harry Potter, like she knew like where to go and what to do, and she was so fun. So we actually got like the personal Deborah Carrata tour through the Harry Potter castle. And that was kind of amazing because, I mean, we already loved her, but then after hanging out with her, like, she's so amazing. So that was really fun.
I had to share this picture of the train, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Mike's got the...
That's a ride.
Okay. All right. Wait. That picture is epic. That makes it look like you're going, like the train's going to fly off the track.
I was on platform 9 3/4.
Right?
You know, it's okay, Shorty. Just because you don't like fun, right? Like, it doesn't mean you have to take it back. We get it. You don't like fun. You're not all down with the train ride. It's fine.
All right. It's a ride. I'm going to give it that. There was 3 rides that we got to experience all of ourselves. So you guys win.
That was a really fun night.
That was pretty
And
cool.
I did not end up going home early. I couldn't. It was too much fun.
So I
wanted to ask, Shorty, since you experienced it from a non-speaker point of view, did you actually get to learn anything new, like from the talks, since you got to like relax and enjoy them? Was there anything that you were like, wow, I actually took things away from the talks, or was it still all like, I'm pro expert, man?
Well, I'm never going to claim that. Definitely. I think it was a combination of the opportunity to see these talks and digest some of the stuff. I mean, most of these other, conferences, they have them recorded and things like that. So you can go and see that after the fact, right? And still get some of that information. But I think one of the cool things about it was sitting next to people and watching the talks and then talking about stuff while we're doing that, right? Like Thomas Burleson, got a chance to hang out with him a lot. That was really cool. Got to spend a lot of time with him, and we sat through a couple talks and discussed things while they were up there. And we actually hammered out some thoughts and ideas about things from the talk that spurred us to think about things some more and came up with some new ideas and things like that. So that kind of engagement definitely got to do. Whereas, if I was talking, as I mean, I probably would have had that conversation. I'd be sitting there kind of watching a talk, but really thinking about my talk, right? Or thinking about the after effect of my talk. And so definitely just that sort of thing certainly helped.
You're inspiring me to at least make like one conference next year.
I think if you're a speaker, you definitely need to do that. If you haven't experienced that, like do that. We need some time to engage, fully with the community and take that in and also see it from the perspective of attendees, right? You get that experience sort of thing. It's cool. But so we had this Harry Potter thing, right? And that was the big event. And usually we get these things that then part of everybody's attendees pay to put on the conference goes towards that. And the conference, people plan these events that kind of fill that. But it's interesting with this conference is they did have a scenario where only the first day of the tracks were recorded, and day 2 and day 3 weren't recorded. And we don't know why that was, whether it was a decision made to not record it, or maybe something just didn't work out and they weren't able to record it. But let's say it was a decision made to say, okay, we're going to put our budget towards a cool party versus the recording. It'd be interesting to think about, like, do we benefit, would you want, like, if you were attending, you're paying, would you want that cool Harry Potter experience, or would you rather have that go towards the recording?
I think for me, I would rather everybody wants to answer that one. For me, I think it would definitely go towards the recording, because even when I'm there and even when I'm fully, hanging on their every word, I'm usually sleep deprived at a conference and there's usually a lot going on. And I really just try to kind of pick out which talks I think are the most interesting. And especially for the ones that are the most interesting, I want to go back and sleep for 2 days and then watch those talks again and really absorb it, because it's really hard to, like Samantha says, I can't fit that in my brain right now, right? There's just too much going on. And to me, recording the talks is a huge value. And I wouldn't say like, oh, I don't have to go to the conference because I could just watch it online, because it's not the same experience at all as being there. But even after being there and watching all of them live, I still would want them recorded, because ngConf, I mean, I watch every single talk and I'm totally listening and paying attention, and I still, some of it, I have to go home and really kind of chew on it for a while before I can really understand it and use it. So I absolutely love it when the talks are recorded.
I used to go to JSConf, and they never recorded any of their talks because they wanted the attendees to like get the experience, right? Like, you're paying to be there. We want you to have like the experience, and you know, we're not going to record these and stream these for free type thing. And it was like, I understand that from that perspective, but at the same time, like you were saying, Bonnie, you know, typically like you'll watch a talk and there'll be so much content that you want to like, you know, digest, and it's so hard. You want to go back and you want to look at those talks, and maybe like a year later, like you're working on something and you want to see these, you know, what was said back then. And so I think, you know, just in general, I really enjoy it. And I think, you know, if you have that mentality, then maybe like having an option where you could pay for it if you're not attending to get access to the talks, and those who attend get access to the talks for free or something like that, if you have that feeling. But I just think it's been so much helpful to go to conferences that have those recorded. Heck,
We did
last
have a
day,
bootlegger.
You have to though, like where the money goes, because obviously everyone would opt out at the end to have it recorded. I feel like I'm more grateful for these crafted experiences that I get when I go to conferences. And so if it means like making that happen and making me be able to have time with like some person in the Angular community that I just wanted to get to know better, and I wanted to be able to like create that relationship, I don't know, I value conferences on that level, like at a great deal. So if I would have to sacrifice that for a later recording, I would almost say like versus the recordings. But
that would be interesting. That would be like a good topic for a Twitter poll, because I see both sides of it. I personally, I think I loved the Harry Potter party. I had a lot of fun hanging out with Deborah and Mike and everybody, but I would actually give that up to have the recordings, because to me, there's more technical and there's more career value to have those recordings and have that knowledge. So I think it's kind of, it's a really interesting question. Like, I wonder what people would think. And by the way,
that's funny you think there's more career value there, because I feel like the relationship building and like having those contacts is more important as far as career building. At least for my career, it has been, than just like the basic skills I have, because I feel like who you know is so much more important than what you can prove you know on like a written test or something. So
I would agree with that. Like I would agree with myself, but then I would also agree with you. So if there was a Twitter poll, I would be like, I would want to probably click both of them. So it would have to be like all of the above. I want it all. I want the Harry Potter party and I want the recordings. But we actually did have an AngularMix bootlegger in the audience. I made friends with the guy in the audience who was live streaming, and he was like recording them with his cell phone, but there are a few online. So if you guys go follow Dustin_Shea, SHEA, he actually did have a couple of bootleg unofficial recordings.
Awesome. That should become a thing. Like for conferences that can't afford it, like to have people in the audience do it. That's awesome.
I just made a Twitter poll for you, Bonnie.
You made a what?
I just made a Twitter poll for you, Bonnie.
Okay, Alyssa and I will go be the first two voters.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, but I think you need another option. I think you need to have an option to have the parties recorded.
No. Especially not after the butterbeer starts. That's not.
It was not alcoholic. It would have been
What
fine.
you have any alcohol?
I don't know if that would be a wise choice for you.
You don't want to see
after
like
last year.
me and Bonnie on it, and Bonnie and Sam on a sugar rush. Like that's not something you want. So
No.
Alyssa, wasn't it you on the sugar rush too?
You know what? There was one thing that I really wish was recorded because do you guys know who Simona, what is her name? Simona Cotin from Twitter. Do y'all know her? So Samantha and Simona have been following each other on Twitter for a while, and they really wanted to meet, and they were like looking for, because they had never met in person before. And so Samantha, I'm standing there with Samantha, and she looks, and I think it was like she looked into the sponsor room, and she saw Simona standing there, and she's like, oh, there she is, right? And then so there's like this slow motion. Simona and Sam turn around and saw each other, and they're like 50 feet apart, and they start running, arms outstretched, like a slow motion movie moment, right? And it was adorable. And I wish that had been recorded, because that was like I really would have, that would have been a perfect gif of those two, just because they're so cute. I got a picture of them together, but I did not get the slow motion movie moment, and I was sad to have missed that. But I got to experience it in real life, so it was awesome. That was adorable.
You can replay it right now. Both of you just stand up and run it. So I agree with all that stuff. I think that those are all valid points and stuff like that. I think the one challenge, though, is that when you have any multi-track days, like that's when it really becomes difficult for an attendee to not have those recorded, right? Because now the attendee has to pick or choose what they're going to see. And if it's not recorded, they totally miss out on that other content. I think it's a bummer, not only for the attendees to have to pick and choose, but then also for all those speakers that prepared that content that they do want to get out there and share with other people, to not have that available. So,
and the other aspect is, even for speakers, that say if there was a talk going on during one of my talks where I really want to be able to see the content that they're producing, but I'm obligated at the same time to show the content that I've prepared. So you have that aspect for speakers who really have no control over the choice of what they get to see or do.
Exactly. I missed out on being a heckler for Mike Brocky because I had to go give my talk.
Brocky, you just want to watch yourself over and over again.
Actually, and he was in the same time slot, I think, as Sani. And so that was like a big, and I know a lot of attendees, like those were two talks that a lot of people wanted to see, and they had to choose between the two, and it was difficult to do that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of those other talks that happened. People, what did you like? Other ones that were not the Angular team on that first day, that sort of thing.
There was a really good one about GraphQL that I really enjoyed. I thought the presenter was really pretty. So I really enjoyed that talk.
Plus, was Yuri there? Yuri Goldstein was there or something?
Actually, I think he was.
It looked like Uri.
I think he was there.
All right,
so you would have loved it.
It was pretty epic. So Bonnie had her first
hold on. Oh yeah, it's been photographed.
Oh my goodness! No. Oh wow! Oh my goodness! I forgot about that picture.
Okay,
That's awesome.
So context, right? Bonnie did her first talk. Talked about using GraphQL within Angular and using Apollo, the Apollo client with GraphQL,
which only worked because of you, Justin.
Whatever, we'll skip that. But epic talk, really cool talk. So she demoed how to use GraphQL and Apollo to get data into an Angular app, as well as like real-time data, because that's one of the new things that they've got with Apollo client and this WebSocket thing, and ability to query data and then get data live pushed to it, and then merge that into your existing query to get your view all updated and stuff like that. So if you know anything about GraphQL or whatever, it's pretty cool. If not, maybe we need to have another show on that. We had a show last year on it, I think. Erie came on, talked about it, but it's really cool. And so she had this amazing talk, which was really engaging, and she did such a great job of engaging the audience, asking questions. The whole idea of GraphQL laying on top of an existing data sources that you need to get to your application, but not expose it via REST or at different endpoints to have it all through one. So she's asking the audience about what databases they use, this sort of thing, and everybody was super engaged. And brought out Sam to be Uri, and the two of them played off each other. It was epic, and maybe it's on the bootleg recording. I don't know, but it was.
It is on the bootleg. Except in the beginning, the audience was coming in, and we did not know that Destin was recording. So Samantha and I, and we're goofy, right? We're like up there like singing karaoke with no music, and it was just like I would have been more professional had I known that he was recording, because we were just up there being goofballs. We were like nervous, and we were just singing a cappella karaoke. So I would strongly recommend that if you find that bootleg and you watch it, just skip until you start seeing slides, because the part before that was I did not know.
You need to own that. Own it. Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know.
And people need to watch the whole thing.
The most fun, I think, and Alyssa, I really wish that you had seen that, because we had the beard and the wig for Samantha, and Sam didn't know this. Like, I was like prepping her and like telling her what her part was and what her lines were, but what she didn't know is she was up there on stage and she starts going like this with her beard, which Uri does that. And I was like, that is uncanny. Like, how did you pick up on that like beard thing going on? It was hilarious.
When I get into character, I get into character. No, it's not even that. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. I wasn't at that talk. Uri was at that talk.
Uri was,
right. It was Uri Goldstein. He's the one who wrote Apollo, and he had been helping me a lot leading up to my talk, and like explaining to me how to use this and how to use this. And so the parts that he explained to me, then I had Samantha sit in and play his part so that he could explain to me and I could explain to the audience, like, this is what I thought, but I was wrong. This is actually an easier way to accomplish the same thing. And so it was kind of, it was cool. But the whole beard on Samantha was pretty hilarious.
And then Sam had her first talk there on Angular animations, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. You. Yeah. Alyssa, we wish you were there.
My favorite, and I hate to, because Sam's gonna kill me. She's gonna come downstairs and like thump me on the head as soon as the show is over, because she hates this. But it was so funny. So she was nervous, right? She did such a great talk, and she has such. I mean, she's young, but she has great stage presence, right? She's a hoot, and so she did this awesome talk. She prepared. She did like great slides. It was great, but she did it a little bit quickly, and then she came off stage and she walked around behind the curtain, and then she started talking to the sound guys, and immediately she realized that her mic was still live, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, can they hear me?" And like the whole audience just died laughing, and Sam's like back there just mortified. But it was so cute. It was adorable.
Oh, I've never had a hot mic moment. I'm so excited. You go, girl.
They loved it. It was great.
It was the worst. It was. I never want to show my face again.
But you two, both of your talks, you just commanded the stage and had the audience engaged so well. You did such a great job from a speaker.
Well, thank you. We were freaking out. We were really super nervous.
So, yeah.
And your support was really meant a lot, because I mean, it's so great to be surrounded by more experienced speakers who are kind of talking us down off the ledge and going, "Y'all are going to be fine." And yeah, we were pretty nervous, but it was fun. And it was really, I think it was the same thing when I started the meetup. I was kind of terrified about starting the meetup and speaking in public. And I think what cured me of that was that the people who came to my meetup were so nice to me. They never judged me. They were very appreciative. And it was the same thing with AngularMix. Like, the response that we got from people was so nice. Like, we weren't perfect, right? We were super nervous, but it was just the fact that everybody was so nice to us that definitely we will do it again.
Only Mike Brocky told. Go ahead.
Only Mike Brocky said what?
Only Mike Brocky told me that it was horrible, so I'd say that was a win.
I mean, you can always count on Mike for that extra.
I have no such recollection.
That's convenient.
I blame it on the butterbeer.
And we just found out we're going to Angular Connect too, so we'll get another chance to. We're pretty excited. We're going to, guys. We've never been anywhere outside the U.S., and we're going together to London. So
I've never been out of Texas.
No, you've been to Florida.
I'm just kidding.
Any of you, if any of you can find like links to the bootleg copies of your talks, would love to see those like links.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. Actually, I just put it in the chat. It's in the chat, Alyssa.
I've been torrenting them.
Not that we advocate that, but that's what you were doing.
I shouldn't say bootleg because it sounds so like, because he was allowed. the last day we did the ngRx workshop, and we asked him not to stream it, and he did not stream it. So, but everybody was actually really glad. I did talk to the organizers because I was surprised. I thought they would all be recorded, and they did say it was a budgetary decision, so they didn't mind that he was streaming it. Yeah, it was really exciting when we found out that he was doing that.
By the way, my results from the poll so far are 76% like would vote recorded over 24%.
How many people have voted?
Only
But
7.
like, look at what you labeled the option. He labeled it like that is so not coming across as like an experience to get to know other people. It's coming off as like
make your own poll, and then the rest of us should make a poll to see whose poll is better.
Hey, Alyssa, I only had so many characters.
Maybe we can find somebody with the double character amount access. Oh,
Mom
Mike.
and both my moms. I'm so proud.
what? I don't understand. How?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
How you get the double characters, or how Sam has 2 moms?
I know. Well, I get the 2 moms thing.
All right, well, we're at the top of the hour. Let's wrap this thing up. Get to our ever famous, popular, the part that we love, which is picks, right? Which I think we're now renaming to Austin's picks, and we're just going to have Austin do the picks, and it's just his show. But at the end here, but maybe we'll all have some picks. I don't know. But before
you did not like that idea.
He just disconnected. He's like, I'm out. Peace.
You scared him off, Shorty.
What did I miss?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing.
We were just gonna get to picks. But before we do that, any last comments on AngularMix? Anything else anybody wants to add real quick?
I think you're my hero. I'm gonna keep saying that, and I know you're tired of hearing it, but
yeah, we can stop that. Okay, anybody else? All right, well, it was pretty cool. And then, yeah, there's some more on the pipeline, right? Other conferences up next. Angular Connect's up next in London. We've got
Atlanta.
Atlanta at the
and
end
then
of
Conf.
NG Vikings is in there in March.
Europe.
When's NG Europe?
Atlanta?
Early February.
NG Europe and NG Atlanta are like overlapping, which I'm conflicted about. But I'm already speaking at NG Atlanta, so I can't go to NG Europe. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
NG Conf Papers is open right now, and I'm super excited about that because that's like for me, that's where it all started. So
what's your talk going to be this year?
NG Conf. I don't know yet. I'm probably going to submit like 25 different talks just to make sure that one of them gets picked because I really want to go to NGConf.
She can't reveal that. It's competitive. You got to keep that tight to the chest. And just send it in. Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
Well, yeah. Everybody submit. Looking forward to seeing the topics.
I'm going to submit how to be an Angular mom.
You need a little, maybe we could consult on that because you need a little bit more practice on being a mother.
I'll be your mentor, Mike. I'll teach you everything about being an Angular mom.
I know. Pitfalls of being an Angular mom.
Start with daily beatings.
Oh yeah,
no.
That's why I'm so short. She just keeps beating on my head.
All right, let's get to picks. Okay, so Austin's picks. We'll start with Austin's picks. Austin, why don't you go for it?
Yeah, so I've got a couple this week. In RX 5.5, RxJS, the whole imports like chaining thing is getting fixed, and they're calling this lettable operators. So you'll essentially be able to import your maps and stuff like that instead of having to and pipe them together instead of like these like crazy, like where did I get my import of this thingy from? Also, the Angular CDK docs, we talked about that earlier. Those went live last week. So if you're wondering what people had been talking about the CDK, those are up now. TypeScript 2.6 is coming out. There's a couple new features and performance things in there that you should be aware of. It's in beta right now, and we had Gleb on a show a couple shows ago, and he works at Cypress.io, and he was talking about indent tests and things like that. And if you don't know about it, Cypress.io is like an end-to-end like test engine that like runs. It's really, really comprehensive. It's one of the best tools for testing I've ever used. And it actually went open source today. So that is huge. Highly recommend checking it out.
Austin's feast or famine on those picks, huh?
Yeah. He had another one in there, but I think he moved it. So
I give it to you, Justin. I didn't want to talk about it. I felt bad because I had so many picks.
All right. Well, I'm not going to pick it. So if you want to talk about it, you better bring it up. Or we can bring it up later. All right. Who else got picks? Anybody else have picks?
I'll steal that one.
All right, Mike, what are your picks?
I am going, let me double check that I've got the right one here. NX from Narwhal. NX is a series of schematics, which we'll learn about more next week, about a prescribed way of writing Angular applications and how to structure them. So definitely very cool. Definitely go and check that out. That, and Justin, where can I find more info about that?
Well, if you're asking, it's nrwl.io/NX. And yeah, we're going to have an episode too, probably after Angular Connect, where we dive into that and really showcase that. I'll get Jeff and Victor to come on and demo that and stuff like that. So
that'll be a good show.
Cool. Yeah, we announced that at AngularMix, so that was pretty cool. All right. I've got some picks, or a pick. Anybody else have any picks? Alyssa, Bonnie, okay.
My pick is the Acura RDX. Oh, go ahead. I'm just kidding about my pick. I have a legit pick.
Can I tell the story like super quick? Do we have time?
Yeah. Tell it.
So Samantha and I share an old Chevy. We did share an old Chevy Trailblazer, and I had not replaced it because it was paid off, and I like the fact that it was paid off. Yesterday, Samantha was on the way home from the doctor and broke down on the side of the road and called me, and she was very upset. And so we just kicked that old Chevy to the curb, and we bought a new car last night. It was fun.
Yep.
Nice. Good story.
Yeah.
Yes. So my legit pick, it's not new, but it is very cool. It is TypeScript Hero, the linting, because I had to do hours of linting, and it was not fun. So when I found this, I was very happy. It lints on autosave, and you guys have all probably heard of this, but I think it's really cool because I had to do all the linting on this project that I'm on, and it was not fun. So that's my pick.
Cool. Bonnie, Alyssa?
So two are picks. One is NG Atlanta, which we already talked about. Get your tickets now. I'll be speaking. Lots of other cool people will be speaking, and it'll be lots of fun. Secondly, for any of you out there who are wanting to get into speaking or are already in speaking but have not submitted to the upcoming ngConf in 2018, last week on Adventures in Angular, another podcast that I'm on, we interviewed the organizers, so Frosty and Joe Eames, about their upcoming plans. And they revealed actually a lot of secrets about the upcoming ngConf. But what they also revealed was some tips on a massive survey they sent out to the community, and the info that they got back and feedback that they got back as far as what talks people want to see, and more importantly, like the talks that people are tired of hearing. So if you want to hear more on that subject, I'll put the link in the show notes to that specific episode. But yeah, good luck to all of you talk submission committees. What do you call people pre-talk? Like waiting?
Hopefuls.
Hopefuls. Yes. Good luck.
Cool. Bonnie, do you have any picks?
Yeah, actually, that was a really good pick because I did not know about that episode, and I'm submitting my first speaker for ngConf, so I really want to go to that, so I'm going to check that out. My pick is Angular Connect. You guys already know about Angular Connect, but I'm just picking that because I'm super excited about Angular Connect because it's coming up. That's my pick.
Cool. All right, my pick is the RxJS5 Ultimate Git book that's out there from Christopher Noring. He's put this thing together. It's a bunch of information about doing RxJS 5 stuff. It's really cool. It's free, so check it out. That's my pick.
And he's pretty cool.
Right.
I saw him, but
Yeah.
I didn't actually get to hang out with him. But I've been following him on. I feel like we were like ships passing in the night at AngularMix because I kept trying to hang out with him, and he was going. But he seems pretty cool.
I got to meet him in person finally. That's what's funny about all these conferences and stuff. It's cool. It's like you have your remote engagements, right? Twitter and all that stuff and all those things. And then finally at one of these conferences, you get to meet in person. And it's crazy because it's like a lot of these people you run in and you're like, you feel like you already know them. It's like an easy meet sort of thing. So it's pretty cool.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. Update your profile picture on social media to be actually you, so that when people meet you at conferences, they know who you are.
That is an
and even if you can
point.
watch, even if you can watch them online, try to go in person because the conference, the Angular community is amazing. Like I love these people, all the people.
What if it's you, but you're wearing a panda hat?
Then you have to commit to wearing that panda hat the entire conference. If not, it all falls apart. So like you got to make your decision. Maybe you need to be standing there in your profile pic holding your panda head so people know that it could be one or the other sort of thing.
Maybe like two-headed person. My panda head inside my head.
All right. Well, time to put a bow on it, wrap this thing up. We'll be call it a show, call it an episode. So we will catch everybody next week. I believe it's going to be Brocky talking about schematics, but we may switch that around and get David East talking about Angular Fire. I don't know. Stay tuned. You'll get something and it'll be entertaining. We hope. All right. Thanks everybody. That was fun. We'll catch you next week. Later.